So just thought I'd make a couple quick little videos. Anyways, so this is a 10-inch nail spike. You know, it's just whatever I'm going to use today. It could be an 8-inch. But if you come in here and look at this, like this is going to make it close up. I mean, they're rough, you know. All right, go. All right, that's good. So now I'm just going to use a basic grinder. I probably bought it at Home Depot for 60 to 100. I don't know, but I got some jeweling rouge on this felt wheel, and this is what usually Joe Strain would use. And he would use this to like sharpen his blades or anything if he needed something sharp, you know. So he'd make one razor blade last forever. He just bring it over and go, shh. Here's how you sharpen a splitter. But anyways, this is going to polish it. You know, it's a jeweler's bruise on it. But all I need to do, really, you know, you don't get in too much detail. Let's turn it on. You can zoom in if you want. Look at that. Right, come on in. Look, now, done and dusted. That's all you really have to do. Now, you want to add a little more? Now, if you want to just add a little bit more of a smooth out like that, you can, you know. But like generally, you know, you can smooth out a little bit more. But that first one, man, just like this. All the rough's caught, it's a little squarish. Now, this is about all I've seen Joe do on one before. I was a little shocked. But you got to realize, no matter what this is, the leather is going to fill it up. It's just going to fill it up great if you do it right. So that's all you need to do to get a nail spike ready. Don't take long, don't take much. I mean, you could even thin that out more. You could do a few different things with it like that, you know, but that's all you need. You don't take long. I mean, if you really want to check knot this out in what, 30 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, round off the tip, rouge it off, no sharp edges, you're good to go. You can always shape a little more, but it don't take long. All right?
How we doing? Just here today, going to show you a quick video on how I go about cutting out belly from the kangaroo skin. This will be just a quick first belly, but here's the skin I got, and it's really big. It's an 80 decimeter skin, so it's nice and big, but I got a really bad hunk right here I'm going to have to be careful of. This is all superficial. I can't feel any of that on the bottom of the hide, and it doesn't feel real bad. This is really stretchy flank though, so I'd usually just give it a quick pre-stretch. The only thing I've done so far is just to round off the overall hide, and then I got a really nice looking section over here that's just going to have to all be waste. So what I'm going to do is just cut a belly out of this, probably big enough for maybe a 8 or 10 foot width for a first belly, and just end it right around here, because for an overlay I'm going to have to get rid of that. So we'll just make that happen. And just cut right along up to that. This first one. And so there's first belly. Now I've got less waste to get rid of. I've used some of that. Probably most of it's going to break right there, or I'll just use it to hold on to the string while I stretch. It'll get cut out of the whip anyway. And now I can try to get rid of some more of this, maybe with another belly or, you know, whatever.
Hey, this one happens to be another 80. But anyways, with this one, this already kind of got it, you know, rounded off. But man, these are just, if you come in here, you can see this. Yeah, this is bad. I mean, you don't want to make this, like, you don't want to use any of this stuff. As you can see on the back side, you see all that flesh area? Like, you would not want to use this for overlay. It'd just be a waste. So a lot of people that, you know, they just, they'll cut way too much out of this. But the thing is, if you make whips different ways and use yokes, this is prime real estate. You get to help with it. So this is actually a pretty decent, you know, flap, good enough for yoke. But if you look at this, there are some terrible scratches in here. Not too bad though. Like, not that looking through and seeing nothing guarantees it, but the one Steve binder you just saw had really bad ones. But I think these will hold up, but I wouldn't want an overlay on that, you know, especially once it stretches and gets small. But you can see all the flank around here. This is some real nasty stretchy stuff. You know, like if I was just going to try to pull an overlay, I'd probably go around almost all that. You can almost see just from the way Steve pulled on this a lot. I usually don't do that on mine. I kind of know where the, you know, but either way, you can see by a stretch, you can actually see where it's good material and where it's like way too stretchy. You know, this is always good stuff too, but you're going to have to eat that up, because last thing you want to do is trim all this up and then have this weird high neck thing all the time. It'd be a lot better to get rid of this stuff and make it as round as possible, depending on what you're doing. So this is going to be harder to manage because of the stretch. I usually don't stretch them like that because now it's just kind of harder for the way I do it, but that's right. You know, you work around stuff. Anyways, this over here doesn't look nearly as bad as Steve. I mean, it's scratched. Now, the reason these are all scratched, these are the flanks. This is the kangaroo's side of their ribs. So when they grab someone and kick, it hits them in the tummy because this is their back. So their whole tummies get scratched up. And you got to realize this would shape around a kangaroo a little bit like this. So this part is the scratch is coming out of his ribs and they're getting kicked and it flings outside of his ribs. So these can be bad. Every now and again you'll find a hole in them. I don't see one on this one. But generally you'll find a weird hole in it, and that, like a small hole, and that's usually where the bullet went through. But anyways, overall this skin looks pretty good. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut a belly for it. You know, once again, if we were just going to go right into the overlay on this, you know, I'd probably just try to not worry about eating up as much as I can there. I'm just going to cut up a general belly for what I want to work on, so it won't be anything special. It could be, you know, it could be used for a few things. Like if I have a skin and I don't have bellies or I have internals made, I might cut out some side bellies just to throw on my wall, but put them in the ballpark where they could shape a few things. Let's go and look at it real quick. All right, this tab's pretty good. You know, you always want to kind of imagine that straight line running up to there. I could get by with this and trim it in the next step. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and, this is easier, so I'm going to straighten it up and then curve it out a little bit better. Maybe you can see about what I got there. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm not a big fan of this table, but I want a 10-inch handle. So this yoke has to be about 10 inches. I know from like here to here, it's like 8 inches. So I know that's 8. Every knuckle's another inch, like, you know, so I'll just slap that down. I already know that this is about 10 inches right here. I'm just going to go a little past it. And I kind of like to have it where that flare is. But all I'm going to do is I guess start going. All right, where are we at there? Yeah. Used to a different table, but that won't matter. Whoa. Tell you what, I'm going to make a short belly on this one anyways. This will be a nice first belly for something. Like a 4 foot, 5 foot. That one, first one went a little rogue on me, but that's all right. I'm going to go ahead and pull something else out on this. But we're just going to bring this down around straight off there. Because I'm actually probably going to use that line. There you go. Now I'm going to stretch him a minute. So we got about 1.5 feet. We got 1 foot and change. I'll stretch to get a little more out. Talk about that in a minute. Belly.
Okay, so upon stretching that belly, I am pleasantly surprised that nothing broke. I was in a bit of a hurry when I cut that out and got a bit of a small strand starting right there, but that's okay because I was cutting through all that stretchy stuff. I wanted to cut these really wide, so that's probably where I'm going to end up anyway. But these are still wet; they'll be dry in just a minute. When you don't use super hot water and you just dip your strands real quick and don't let them soak all that water in, they're still strong enough to really get a good wet stretch, but they dry very quick. And you'll find that doing it that way also, not only does it make stretching your strands really fast, you can feel all the stretch disappear out of the strand when you pull it like that, but also the leather, I'm not squeezing out all the nutrients of the leather, all the oils that are already in this veg tan drum stuff kangaroo. So your plaiting soak will not darken it as bad. Basically, the old way I used to stretch, soaking my strands in super hot water and running them back and forth over a hook, and then I wondered why my stuff darkened so bad with plaiting soak, is because I was just literally not only squeezing all the water out of the strand, but you're squeezing all the oils in the strand out. So when your strands dry, they're really brittle. It takes a while to get them to limber up, while you're prepping. But these are just going to feel nice and limber, very stretched, and they're almost dry already. I could probably go ahead and almost start prepping this, just a few spots where they're still a little moist. But there you have it. You want to go ahead and prep them? Yeah, I can prep it. I don't really know what I'm making, but I'll just show you. I'll just take the rough off real quick, like I'm getting ready to run it through a splitter. Why don't we go ahead and make a first belly for an 8 foot? First belly for an 8 foot. For an Indy. Whip. So you got enough material. Just nail it. Yeah, all right. Let's see what I can do here. I'll start with a new blade. Fix that. Edge. One side. Now you hear that chatter? A lot of that's because it's still a little wet. You usually don't really want to what you'd call wet prep. That you can, but if you just waited about 3 more minutes, these would probably be dry enough to go. But it does make it harder. You can also hear the sound of the blade going through leather sometimes. Ooh, that chatter was scary. But anyways, you'll hear the blade when you get used to it. You can tell when a blade is just slicing right through it or the blade's getting dull. You'll hear the sound change when you're actually cutting. close enough for me. I can make that work. I might want to clean these up here a little bit. Straighten that out. Nothing major. I'll just make a nice looking core and make that work. So there we go. Now if I wanted, I guess I could split these, but that's about how long it takes me to get a first belly cut, stretch, and press. All I gotta do is get a core ready and braid it up.
All right, this is a very short whip. Like I said, I go fingertip to elbow. I'm just going to give you some tips. Like right there, there's 18 inches, you know, and so now from here, I know I've got about, you know, another half foot here, almost 8-9 inches there, you know, and so with this though, I'm planning to put this on a 10-inch handle. So I mean, you got to realize, you know, about 10 inches on that handle, maybe around here. So I've got about 8 inches already, you know, and if I'm going to make this, I'm just going to make this a first belly on a 6 foot. Might be a little short, but there we go. Now I usually put a hole in the hook, but this is a similar height to what Steve just used. So I'm a little worried about just getting pulled off the hook from the pressure. But I'm pulling hard. I don't know if you can see it, but if you don't want to pull hard with your arms, watch this. How much you weigh? You know, that was an end tip. But all you gotta do is drop your weight back. So I mean, you're like, I can't pull. Well, don't. Just hook on tight, lean your weight. But look at my body posture. You do this and you fall and snap, you go down. So, you know, just make sure whatever you're doing, just pull on it and pull on it. But I tell you that one snapped in that bad roughy spot, but they're still about good. There's 18 inches. Again, I have a little bit more stretch. You know, we didn't always use this hole punch, but it's really handy. Just slap a hole in that and pop it on a hook. This gets the prep going. Now, as you can see, we have a composite camera coming over here. So this is kind of what the dry looks like. You can see it's still wet. I don't really advise wet prep, but if you look at some of these strands, they're already kind of drying out in some areas, but not much. So if I really just waited 5 minutes, they'd be dry. That was called chatter. You know, you don't want it chattering. When it chatters too much, when it chatters and it starts like a car that's shaking, you don't want to chatter your finger off. That's a little something than I want, but that's right. All right, let's go do this. I'm taking too much time talking. Too much time using my mouth. Now, I don't need to worry about tapering all these all the way out right now because I am going to hand taper those when I get down to that point and see what I'm dealing with, whether I need to taper much or not. If I wanted a finer belly, I'd probably split these a little bit, and the thing is I can still split it after if I change my mind, so I don't need to split these first. You know, you got the right splitter and you know what you're doing. All right, I haven't really looked at these yet to see how close they came. I just kind of eyeballed it. This and like I just kind of did what I always do. They're not bad. Now I'm going to trim this one up. This one just did not get as much taper. There you go. Now with this, that one's got a little fatty on it. Sorry, I'm taking too much time cleaning it up. But there you go. Now if you see, these are still where the... Well, I heard the camera click off. Yep. So I had to delete a file real quick, so I'm going to touch mine. I did take a little bit off there, but okay, once again, all I did is just, I just went for these. Now if you look at this over here, I don't know if you can see this. This is where we'll still be over a nail spike or spring steel, so you still want that fat, but that's got a taper because right off that it tapers. There's a little tip for you. But for the most part, you can see these match pretty well. And I don't know how long that took. I felt a little slow there talking, but man, what was that? Like I got a minute to do a belly. It was an 8 foot. It still took me about as long. But now there's the great thing. Look on the floor. There's my waist. There is my waist. There's a little over here. Don't forget this. I mean, there's a big pile of it. There's a big pile of waste right there. But anyways, like I said, it don't have to be easy. It don't have to be hard. This is a good first belly. Right here is about where I'd come to the end of my first belly on what I want for the core. There's about you know, a total of 1.5 foot braided on the first belly. That's pretty good. And I got change right here for some good tails. If not, I'll fix it with bolts and other stuff. But, you know, total process, cut, stretch, prep. Like I said, I like it to dry a little bit. Now you can see we only wasted about 2 minutes when that video went out, just trying to get things deleted back in place. But it's already dry. So it dries that fast. So when you're trying to do this as a business, or you're trying to, you know, really do things well, you don't want a method. I'm just saying there are a lot of methods. You can do any method you want, but whatever it is, you got to clean off your time. And if this can do the same work, takes 3 minutes, you know, to even just, I don't have to take 3 minutes for me to even cut out a belly. Took, you know, 30 seconds to stretch. I can almost prep it in 5. And I got to tell you, I don't know how long it took me to prep these, but I'd give it about 2 minutes. I mean, look at that, one belly. Second belly ain't going to be much different. That's how you can really cut down your time. Overlay, take your time. Sure, not that I didn't take my time here. I could run a little faster, probably could run a little slower, but it wasn't really needed for what I'm doing on here. Looks good. All right.
All right, this is me putting on a core. Basically, I'm gonna make a core for an indie whip, and I just from my good friend Blake Bruning told me that this ruler works perfect. So all I do is, I know I want an 8-inch handle. I'm gonna lay this ruler on here and leave myself a little bit of room. You know, here's 8 inches, you know, if you want, you can make a little mark there, whatever. So I happen to know that this ruler is the perfect size to cut me a piece of leather that will fit on my indie nail spike. So my first, I'll just make me a little pattern. And then what I do is just put my straight edge on here, run it out to, let's see, wherever I want it to end, for depending on what length whip I'm making. I'm going to make this core about 4 feet long for an 8-foot whip to be prepped and tapered a little bit better later. And then all I got to do is just cut my little lines right there, and I'll just make it flare out there, and I can fix that later when I decide where I want to put the handle. And so now then, on a standard 8-inch nail spike, I'll just lay that handle right in there, and let's see, yeah, this one's a 10-inch, but you'll get the idea. So basically that will fit right around that nail. I can just tie that right on, and I've got my core ready to go. So that won't take but just a few minutes. Of course, I'll have to get me an 8-inch spike. But there's the basic process, that just one way I can use to get a core made.
Well, here's how I like to do a core. You know, through the years I've done different things, but I try to do everything in a way that's as quick as possible. Not that it sacrifices in quality, but this isn't bad. You know, like I can get a handle off that and whatever. All right. Personally, what I like to do, and this is my own technique, but usually you put this on a table like the whole cow, and Joe would just put his blade in it and walk back and cut it out by eye. I didn't really have a good table for that, so I like to just put a hole in there. Let's see how long we'll take. And ready? Let's time this core. You guys ready? Get set, go. Done! It looks like crap right now because of what it was, but I'm going to shape it for you really quick. Anyways, all right. So if you look at the core down here, you know, like I said, this is a rough core, and that's all right. I had such a small scrap, I wasn't worried about saving a lot of material because I couldn't really reuse the scrap. But anyways, as you see, this is where it's the fattest spot. You know, all this could work. I mean, it's kind of fat in there, but I'm just going to slide that up to the fattest spot because I want to. I'm just going to drop this off. I want that fattest spot because I want the most flare out, so I can hand tape that better. And so around in here, about where I know all it's at, fattest spot, I'm just going to do this. Now, there's a lot of ways to do this. I mean, I've actually seen Steve pull a lot of different ways. He'll get this thing going, and Joe and everyone, Joe will just lay it down, he makes a marker, and he just puts his razor blade on a flat thing and just slices it with a razor blade in his hand. There's a ton of ways to do it. Whatever works best for you. I have a feeling I cut this too thin, which might be a really good thing to show off too. But Let's see. Look at that. Let's see how well I did. Holy crap, look at that. Oh my. A little fat there, but if you look at it from the base, let's check it out. Bench City. Bench City.
You are correct.
Now, I'll tell you what, I think it's a little long. I want the flare out to go back a little shorter. Do not. He answered it. But anyways, my video went out at the same time. I've been deleting videos as we go. But let's look at this core again. Like I said, I haven't touched it. Just got the phone fixed. Fits pretty good. Right there's a little fat. You know, so, I mean, I'm just going to figure out which side I kind of want to trim in a little better. I kind of like that one. Just going to knock that off a little bit. Ready? Now, I don't know how much time that took because I got to tell you, when I talk, I kind of slow down a little bit. I don't know about you guys, but trying to find a camera, trying to talk, slows me a little bit, not much. I don't know if I have enough sinew, but we're about to find out. So like I said, it's good to kind of grab it and just pull it apart, but that's all right. Just do 3 good laps, pull tight. 3 good laps, pull tight. 3 good laps, pull tight, and then we're just going to just twirl this sucker around. Whoops, got caught. Oh no, I just had enough. That's all right. Yeah, it could be prettier. That'll be all right. I'll clean it up. Now, follow me. Run over here. Can you see it? I'm going to do it. Roll that up. Over here. Run. Action sequence. Sorry. Look at that. Look how smooth that is. That's good. All right, ready? Keep your eyes focused. Look at me now. Ready? Look at that. Look back down. Look back up to me. Look back down. Look at that. Look at me. Look at that. Me. That. Me. That. Me. Down. Here we go. Stay there. Stay on there. All right, this is a leather keeper. I'm just going to do this real quick. Now, normally I like to put my belly on it, but I'm just going to make sure that's stuck in there. Grab this little guy. I kind of know what I want. And so, I'm just going to pop my little blade in my hand, slide that down. Thank you, man. And I'm kind of knocking off the rough, not really shaping it too much, but I am going to give it a little bit of finality. There we go. It's looking good. Keep the flare out for a while. Taper it in a little, slow it down, because this particular model kind of requires this shape I'm going for. Not all of them do. There we go. I got it. Smooth that out. Yeah, I want to take a little of that. I'm not a big fan of that. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Now we got to clean up this side. Now, I'm not going to braid all this. It's the first belly, but I got a little more meat in here. I'll take care of that later. But now there's a lot of ways to do it. Done. Now I'm going to get this conditioned. I'm going to put a belly on it. And we got the starting of a nice color.
All right, now we're ready to tie this first belly onto the core. So I'm just going to put this into where I want it. And I got my own weird little method I do. It works for me to size this up on the handle real quick. I just like to squeeze it up onto the handle, hold the sides of it in place, which makes some pretty easy to see marks on my yoke. And this, if it won't be perfect, be close enough. I can trim it from there if I want. This is way too wide over here anyway. should get me pretty darn close. It's just a little bit big right in through there, but it's insignificant, so I'm going to let it fly. And now, what I'm going to do is tie that dude on. I'm ready to get my core prepped and braid it up.
What should we do today? Try to take over the world, Stevie. Try to take over the world. Anyways, so here we got a yoke getting ready to go. Got the core already attached as I showed it to you. Everything's looking good. I'm just going to go ahead and do what you kind of saw me do there before. You know, like I've cut these out in a lot of different ways. I'd use razor blades. I lay them flat. You know, I've done a ton of different methods. Steve has a few different tricks. Joe, everybody kind of, you know, can kind of work their own trick. You know, knowing what you're doing and why you're doing it's more important than how you do it. Because if you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, you know, you can fix it. I made this a little fat just because I wasn't completely sure, but I got plenty to work with now with what I want to do. Alright, so I know I'm looking at more. I think I know exactly how much to shave off. You know, I mean, you can always have different methods, faster methods, but to me, this was always the quickest. Everything I try to do is by like an eyeball basis, and that looks pretty good except in 2 spots. I can see that one clear as day. There's some other ones down here where it kind of got a little stretchy. I'm going to clip that off. That should almost do it. And, sorry, that. Don't worry about it. Ultimately, if I did have a little, I'm just being a little nitpicky. If I did have a little bit here or there, it wouldn't really matter all that much. I mean, you want it as clean as possible, but you got to realize it's, you know, a little too of the space or a little too overlapping. There we go, you're good. And you're going to follow me over there in just a second. Whoops. I usually use a PVC pipe. I don't like those little things getting caught. Now, I could roll this, but I won't. It's another process. But, back to the keeper. All right. Whoop. You can just focus on this. Alright, got me some Pappas dubbing right here, and this is actually premium. Not that you should get it. What I do before I start braiding now, I want to make sure that I condition the core. Don't need plaiting soap. Plaiting soap isn't conditioner. Plaiting soap dries out really fast. So I'm going to get up in there, get all that nice grease up in that core. I'll lather it down well. In a minute, I'm going to take a rag and dry it out, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to let a lot of it saturate. And this stuff is frozen. This is some plating soap, but unfortunately it's got a little bit of other stuff. Normally I want to put my hand in one bucket and the other, but this is just bellies, so it's all right. And let's grease these babies. Done. Done. Over halfway, going to 3/4. Final lap, and I lost it. Where is that final lap? There it is. Done. Now, you can braid it from a keeper. You can braid it from a lot of different ways, but I could just whoop. And then I would actually dry this off, but I'll tell you what, I'm ready to start braiding if I want. I'm not going to. I'm just going to get it started. This is a little too soapy. I always want to wipe off the excess before I start braiding. You don't want your hands so slick you can't grab onto it. There needs to be some slide, but and there we go. Ready. It'll look cleaner if I braid, do a little more to it, but ready to start your first belly. Now, I don't know how long that took, but you saw how fast I cut out a core. You saw how fast I prepped it or tied it on, prepped it, how fast I cut a belly, how fast I stretched it, how fast I prepped it. This whip's already underway. Second layer, even less. Get a bolster, second belly, ain't gonna take much longer. Boom, ready for a second bolster, time for an overlay. These methods are the better way to do it for time constraints, using less waste, and it puts the right spot of the leather in the right spot, usually when you're doing overlays and stuff. So a lot of reasons why this is the better way to do it. Waste's been done in a long time. I know you guys don't have a lot of information on this. Go ahead and keep it up. Keep it on the money face. And I'm not that attractive. I barely offer my wife nothing, but there's there's a lot of ways to make these things, okay? But when you're trying to be professional, by that meaning your income is based on it, you don't get paid by the hour, you get paid by the job. This is the same thing as contract work. I mean, I look at making a whip like I'm building a floor, I'm putting up drywall. There are specs and things I hit and what I look for and how to do things. I use a lot of math. Well, I have enough math, but the rest just comes down to understanding, and I have a very artistical way to do it. But I mean, it took me this long to get this started. It ain't gonna take me no time to braid it. Drop, braid, drop, braid. You can get enough work done in a day. But if it takes 3 days over time to make an 8-foot whip for you guys with your methods, that's great. Whatever you gotta do is great. I'm not really trying to critique that, but I'm gonna say if it takes 3 days to make a whip, you figure out how much you make on that whip after you deduct materials, and then figure out how much you actually got paid for 3 days worth of work. Most of you guys with methods you've seen, you're going to be like, there's no way I can do this for a living. There's just no way. And I understand that plight, but I hope this helps you guys out a little bit. This is just me and Steve decided we're just going to take a moment out of our day because we have a lot of whip makers come to us regularly and ask for help, or how are we even doing this? I've had several people that are now getting a name for themselves. I'm not going to mention names now, but they're just like, I don't understand. I can't do it. It takes me like 16 hours to make a 4-foot whip. I can't do this as a job. I mean, I don't understand it. You teach them a few basics and they take off. And, I've had a lot of people come to us and thought this would be something a little bit, give you guys an idea what to do. As for the rest of how to do this, well, find somebody like me, Steve, Paul Nolan, Bernardo Carpio, Franco Zaccoli. Find someone you want to, that you like their work, that do similar methods, which there's only so much of us in the Americas, and talk to them and get a relationship. But I will tell you this, if you try to get hold of Nick, Schrader, Adam, anyone that does stuff, first of all, just introduce yourself. Say, hi, I am so-and-so. I've seen your whips. I am wanting to make whips too. I have questions. Would you mind answering them? Question mark. And then list some questions. The thing that we get most upset about is I will not even hear from, I don't know how many of these I get. I don't even know this person, never heard this person in my life, never messaged me, never even gave me a name. And I'll get an email right off the bat. Like, Metal Whip's a good one recently. Same thing, but other things. Like, I just saw your Metal Whips. Where did you get that material? How do you make this? Tell me now. And I'm like, I didn't even know his name. This guy's never liked a post or nothing. And so I'm like, well, that's a trade secret. That's all I just said on that. And, but normally people ask about normal whips, so they'll just be that rude. And I'll be like, well, I don't know what method you're using, but I'll help them. I'll give them a few light lines and talk to them. But, when they're just that rude and ask for stuff, like, I'll mull it up a little bit, but I can't only help so far because all you got is YouTube to go off of. You're not going to figure out the way a lot of us do it, or the way like Glenn Denholm does it and other people. I mean, everyone kind of has their own method, but Glenn Denholm, he's doing a great job. And putting these out on the Whipmaker's Hook, get on there and check it out. He kind of shows a lot more variety of what he makes with this, but he does this method. And I would check those out where you can. That's a gold mine. Glenn Denholm, check him out. Got any questions about making whips? Just be kind to whoever you go to. But you got to realize a lot of people that aren't doing these methods are doing some sort of version off what usually they've learned on YouTube. Nothing wrong with that, not slamming it. But you're going to be talking to other people that have just seen what you've seen, and then they've come up with their own method. So you can learn tips from them and help them out, but you got to realize if you're doing that method, this ain't going to help you very much. If you want to transition, you got to start going to people that do things differently. So, not saying to come to me at all. I'm trying to really. I'm sorry, Paul, Bernardo, Steve, and any of you guys, Franco. Please, guys, don't bother them, rush them with them. I'm just explaining that they know they know how to do this. But if you find somebody that you want to get you want to get better at whip making, you got to go after the guy that does it like you if you want to get better at that method. Otherwise, you're going to learn to change methods. Now, you always evolve methods, but doing a method like this and doing it like what I call the Youngin method on YouTube, it's two totally different methods. So I got a lot of these people trying to tell me how do I do this and what's all my math, and I'm like, I really don't need math. I need very few measurements, and I'll even use body parts for all the right stuff. A lot of it's just eyeballing it. And if you ever see me do an overlay or you see my work, it's all hand, eye, and blade. I don't even take dimensions on a 12 ply. I don't do a dang thing except make sure it's over 8 feet when I'm done. And you can do that. You can train that skill in eye, but if you don't do those methods, you don't try the methods or new methods like that, you can't gain the skill. And the one thing of this method will always outroot anyone that's on a table making circles and trying to run them through this machine. And other methods that are like that is you don't have the eye for taper. I have to eyeball every taper of every level by eye. My mind sees a taper. I can see it like a lasagna. I see the layers and I see them stacked. And I know how this is going to taper and that's going to taper and that by eye, not from measurements and making sure my facts are straight. And I got to tell you, I don't know what you guys do, but if you guys are spending a lot of time making all these measurements and taking it by 4, squaring it by pi, minus this, whatever it takes. But if you do this whole math on a product and you get halfway through and your math's not right because you realize it's not getting right, you have to resize things. First of all, you need to understand, look at it like a construction job. Okay, if I measure this whole room to land this flooring and then I get most way into it and I realize it ain't measuring up, man, it's like you'd be like, what kind of contractor is that? I mean, people have mistakes, monkeys fall out of trees, but if every time you're making a whip and your math isn't lined up, you got to redo your math halfway through, you need to start figuring out how to fix the math. Learn from what happened, find out where it dropped, maybe taper things sooner, but you got to chew the math. You need to chew your math. So you have a wonderful day. I hope this is just a fun video. I just thought it'd be good to share. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And keep braiding.